Good morning, Daily Huddle family. Welcome to Wednesday. So in my house, Alexa is pretty much like a family member. I think she just heard me say that. And so we ask a lot of questions and we get a lot of answers. So Tara, do you know why a nose can't be 12 inches long?
I do not knows.
Because it would be a foot. We learned that from our dear friends. We have to call her Alex when we talk about her because otherwise she's
Yes. I've never had an Alexa. That's a good one. Otherwise,
told us that. Good morning. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Wednesdays, where we talk everything relationships and communication. And before we get started on our question, why do we feel a lack of focus, achievement, and joy? I have a few questions I want to ask. And I'm going to start with you, Tara, my beautiful co-host and dear friend. What time is it?
Oh, Kathryn, I am in Indiana with no watch on, no clocks around, but I know one thing, the time is now.
That's right. The only time there is. And I want to ask Sorrel the next question. Sorrel, where are you and what are you grateful for?
I am here. And I woke up with this feeling that nearly choked me. I'm grateful for my parents.
Oh,
I love them.
that's beautiful. That's wonderful. Thank you, Sorrel. Yes, here and now and gratitude. Beautiful ways to start the day. I would like to go to Chase. Chase, how are you? And who are you going to hug today?
I am very hopeful today. And I'm going to hug my good friend who invited me to see a musical this afternoon.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Lucky friend. That's awesome. Oh, I love it. Starting with hugs and gratitude and being here and now with all of you. And I'm going to turn it over to Tara, who's going to start us off with why do we feel a lack of focus, achievement, and joy, even though we are working so darn hard? Tara, kick us off.
Thank you. Thank you. As you know, you and I have talked about this a lot, and I thought for a few minutes about how I could maybe best share an experience that shines a light on this frustration that I think so many of us experience from time to time. And the experience is actually pretty recent, and it's probably the best example of why we tend to still struggle, even knowing what we need to do to make our life the best it can be, why we find ourselves lacking focus or inspiration, feeling joyful, and feeling satisfied with our work. And so I'll take us back to only about, 6 weeks ago. And I had mentioned to two of my friends that something just wasn't right for me. I just wasn't feeling my regular, joyful, lead with love self. One of those friends suggested that it was my age and I should look into hormones and doctors and pills and things. And there might be some truth to that, but I was not satisfied with that. Then I mentioned it to another friend who may or may not be named Kathryn Sabol. And she, as she always does, she kind of dug in with her way that she just leads with love and wisdom at the same time. And she started asking me some hard questions. And she asked me, dig deep. What's going on? What's missing? Why are you not really on point, as I like to say? And the best thing that I could figure out was that I was not doing enough creative work. And when I'm more in my creative work, I'm in a better place. I'm more productive. I have more energy. I'm more efficient. Everything seems to flow better when I'm making sure that I take care of nurturing my need to be creative. And she said, well, what does that look like? And I said, well, as you know, I'm writing a book, so I just have to continue to make time to write the book. And she said, well, do it. And I said, you're right. Just because the holidays are here doesn't mean I shouldn't be doing that. And the other thing is working on my, another talk I'm working on, but both just personal work to me. So I made sure that I made time for that. I even shifted my exercise schedule so that I would make sure that in the morning I could get those creative juices flowing. was feeling a little bit better. And then time went by and I had forgotten about it. And I got a text message about a week ago, a good week ago, from the other friend that I mentioned that I was not myself. And she said, just checking in on you. How are your spirits? Did you reach out to the doctors? And I put the phone down and I realized that I was back. So much so that I had forgotten that I was feeling that way. And I started thinking, what is it? What is it? What changed? And as much as I've studied the brain, I learned something even deeper than what I already knew about what we need. And I know what had changed. About 2.5 weeks prior to that text message, I got a phone call from a client and she said, I need to give a speech. I only have a small window of time. I really need your help. And I was like, oh dear, I'm already super busy and she wants me to help. And I thought, well, I'll be able to help edit the speech. So we had 2 discovery calls. I pulled all these stories out of her. And then as time went, as we continued to talk, it was clear she wanted me to write this speech, every single word of it. And then we would tweak it together. And so this work consumed me for the next few weeks. And we collaborated and I would write stories and I would labor over words. And then I would reach back out to her and she gave the speech to her husband and he cried and he laughed. And she gave the speech and she loved it so much that she said, I'm not even going to use an outline. I'm going to memorize every word of this. And she's a pretty well-known speaker and she got her first standing ovation from that work.
Wow.
And so all this had taken place when that friend sent me this text message and I thought, that's it. It's not just that we need to be creative to keep our serotonin and oxytocin and things flowing, but this work was for somebody else. It wasn't for me. And I think that was the missing piece. And so how exciting is it that we get to continue to learn about ourselves and what we need? And ever since then, I'm still just like floating because I even feel more empowered about how to make sure that I can be more joyful. Which, before I turn it over to you, Kathryn, because you're going to help us with some strategies, I want to peel this back a little bit for others, because in a way, I think if I'm listening to this story, I'm like, well, big whoop. So you like to write for other people. That doesn't help me. But here's where I can go back into our question and just peel back how my life changed during those 2 weeks to be back to the Tara that I most respect. You know, when we're not at our best, we're looking for those quick, instant hits of pleasure, i.e. dopamine. We do it by opening up social media. We do it by sweet foods, salty foods. We do it by shopping or gambling. There's a lot of unhealthy ways that we can go after pleasure. And every time we go after those unhealthy hits of pleasure, while they feel good in the moment, they distract us. They hurt our focus, which kills our achievement. And the more we lean into those needs for dopamine, the less we're able to sit in what joy is. And true joy is not just pleasure. It is, and some of y'all have heard me explain this before, but true joy is when we're in the flow state. And when we are in flow state, we are highly challenged and highly skilled. We're doing something where we feel able and we feel capable, but we're challenged. And what happens to the brain is it says, hey, I'm going to lean into my endocannabinoid system and I'm going to put this brain in its perfect balance for this person. And we can stay in that place. We don't lose focus because what we're doing has meaning and we feel challenged and we feel capable. And that's what that work did. I already knew this deep down. I just couldn't figure out why and how it was missing.
Gosh, and thank you for sharing that. You're pointing to something really important, which I want to underline. There's a couple things. Purpose keeps coming to me. Like, that's your purpose. But there's this other need that we have as humans, which is to give back to others, to do something for a higher purpose, right? Which is what you said. You had been doing creative work. You've been writing your book. You've been doing all of that. But this tapped into helping somebody else get their message out. And that was the key indicator.
So much. We are wired to be in community. It's not enough to just take care of ourselves in a silo and continue to do what we're used to doing. It's pushing ourselves, as they say, out of that comfort zone, but into an area where we feel capable and challenged and skilled.
Right. And you're giving me the perfect segue, because you're tapping into exactly what I wanted to talk about this, which is we are wired for safety. Like our brains, I like to say we're biological robots, because our brains are wired to keep us safe.
Mm-hmm.
And our dreams, our big goals, our big desires to live for a higher purpose don't exist within our comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you say to be challenged, takes us outside of our comfort zone. I guarantee, even though you haven't said it, that working on that speech took you out of your comfort zone many different times, even just figuring out the time to be able to do it, because you said you were busy.
Mm-hmm. Well, and yes, you're so right, because part of me was like that imposter syndrome that you're such a master at helping people with, because she's already a great speaker. She already tells great stories. I'm like, why does she need me?
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
it was stretching myself and pushing myself.
So it was that balance of challenge. You knew enough, because you can't be so far outside that you don't know enough, but it's, enough, you're learning some more, and you're challenging yourself, And so I think when we think about this, why, if we're working so hard, do we lack that feeling, or those feelings that we really want of achievement, focus, and joy?
Mm-hmm.
It's oftentimes, and you touched on this, it's distraction. If left to our own devices, our brains will do what they've always done. If we don't slow down, stop, and get connected to ourselves, our brain will keep going, following those same neural pathways that we've so trained it to follow.
Right.
Right. So for me, it's a lot of getting clarity. And how do we do that? Because if we get up in the morning, we keep going, we get on our routine, we get on social media, we keep going, we go to work, we get home, we cook dinner, we go to bed. Like, we're just going to keep doing the same things that we've done. And what's the definition of insanity?
Mm-hmm.
Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. A couple of weeks ago, you brought on Wilson onto the podcast, and your son, Wilson, who recently got out of prison. And you asked him to describe what it was like at different stages, both going in and coming out. And he said something that really stuck with me. He said, life out here can move really fast. And if you're not careful, you can get swept up in it.
Mm.
And for me, it really highlighted, wow, life out here, I imagine, of all the things it was, one of the things that it may have been for him was simpler. You don't have all the decisions to make. It's decided. He even said, I couldn't run. Like, that was decided for me. I could not run. That's not a place you can run. And out here, he described how fast it moved. And I thought, gosh, all of the decisions we make, all of the things that we do, and we get caught up and we're distracted.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that we're maybe dancing around a really important piece of this. And it's that when he was incarcerated, immediately all the ways that we reach for pleasure were taken away from him. And so when I was in this, like, totally obsessed with working on this speech and collaborating, I forgot about social media. I didn't need extra snacks during the day. I didn't need the little hits of pleasure that maybe I was normally leaning on, because I wasn't feeling fulfilled in another way. Mm-hmm. So we use those little hits of pleasure, which are killing our focus, achievement, and joy. We use them for really two reasons. One is we want relief from stress, and so we treat ourselves. And the other is we're avoiding facing what we don't want to face. And I think I say we because we all do it, but being aware of it is like super empowering to realize, why do I keep doing this? Why do I keep having this extra glass of wine at bedtime when I know it makes me feel crappy in the morning? It's because maybe I'm not wanting to sit there and think and face some things that need to be faced.
Right. Like, what would happen? Yeah, I always say, like, we don't want to feel the feelings. We don't want to feel uncomfortable. All of those things are designed to make us feel more comfortable. And what if we committed to feeling uncomfortable? If we just felt the feelings of discomfort, what then? Oh, here's a feeling of discomfort. I don't need to get out of it. I can just feel it. And so I think you're right that we try to avoid that. So what now? It's like, well, what do we do about this? Great. This is all fine and dandy, but what now? Right.
Right.
And, I think just as you described, why do we keep doing the things that we know don't serve us? First, get clear on what does serve you. Often we forget what works for me, what serves me. Because in that moment, I think, yeah, I want that extra glass of wine because I want to feel better now. That serves me. No, I this morning wrote out a higher purpose for myself and how I wanted to focus on my health and wellness, for instance. And in that moment, we can be drawn back to what our intention is. So setting your intention, getting clear on what works for you, and then committing to it. Often, I remember, right? Like I remember years ago, somebody was saying, or maybe I read it, I don't know, but it was about quitting smoking. I didn't smoke, but someone said, actually,
I did.
Okay, yes, I remember. And it said, quitting smoking, there are so many steps that you have to go through to get that cigarette in your mouth. You have to go buy the pack. You have to open the pack. You have to pull a cigarette out. You have to ignite the lighter, put it to your lips, and draw in. I don't know how many that was, but it was a bunch. If you just don't do one of those steps, just one, you don't light the lighter, you don't pull it out of the pack, you don't open the pack, you don't go to the store, you're not smoking. And I thought that is really fascinating because I had always thought it's one thing, you go smoke, right? But it's all these little steps that lead up to it.
They're so worth it. But go ahead. Go on.
They are not, and you don't smoke anymore. We are not advocating that on the Daily Huddle. This is not an advertisement for cigarettes.
One of my biggest regrets. So anyway, go ahead.
Too funny. It's the same with wine, right? Buy the bottle, open the bottle. And so which one of those steps do you commit to just not doing just one time? That's all it takes is just one time. And that, backing it up even further, starts with an intention.
Right.
I want this for myself. So I just break that down because in this moment, when I don't have those desires to do those things, it's easy to say, like, it is easier than we think because it's about training our brain. And our brain will make us think picking up that glass of wine is what we want, unless we give it a different place to look. Right. And we are in charge of our brains. That's the other thing I think we forget sometimes. It's like, I can't stop. It's like, who's in there? Now we do have desires and all of the biology, that stuff that goes with it. And if you're addicted to something, then of course, then that is there. And we have our free will to train our brain differently.
Don't you think too, that this is a twofold conversation. So if I just decide I'm going to stop drinking a second glass of wine every night, I'm going to stop. But I don't replace that time or that habit with something that I know is healthy and fulfilling, I think it will be 10 times harder.
Yeah, no, it's such a good point. Telling somebody to stop doing something without filling the space you're absolutely right. You're setting yourself up for failure.
Right.
Because what you do is you sit there in that moment.
I'm going to do something.
Yeah, you fixate on the thing that you don't have. And what we focus on grows. What we put the attention of our brain on, it grows, whether it's a thought, whether it's an emotion. And so if we say instead, I'm going to stop having that second glass of wine, you know what I'm going to do at night? I am going to make the most delicious, beautiful, amazingly aromatic cup of tea. And I'm going to spend the time putting the water in the pot, watching it boil, watching it steep in the cup. I mean, all of those things are taking your attention and focus. And then I'm going to light a candle beside my bed. And I've done that. And actually, I'm like, I don't want wine. Like, I want this. This is so much fuller and richer than just, trying to numb out.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. It's a great point. You've got to take your brain and you've got to focus it somewhere because it will go. It will focus on something.
Absolutely. That's a lot of what I don't know if I learned it or I just reminded myself that when I was really thick in this writing with this client, I forgot about it dramatically minimized my need for those little hits of pleasure.
Yeah. Gosh, that's such a wonderful place to be. I think that's like, if we could be there more often, just in that flow state, which I know that's what we talk about and how to get there, but it can be hard to get in that state. And it's such a wonderful thing when you're like, actually, that was effortless. I didn't have to go make myself stop doing those things. I was just focused on something else.
So a little segue here. I don't know what happened to the chat. This is a new view, but I saw that Chase put up a comment about the endocannabinoid system, and I'm happy to explain that. But I think with the Zoom updates, I can't find the chat. So anyway, I will.
Chase, why don't you ask us your question live, and then we'll let Tara answer.
Oh, I love words. I'm a wordsmith. I'm always studying words. And when she said that, I heard the word before. I just, my mind did not remember what that meant. It's such a beautiful word. I just wanted her to put it in the chat so I can look at it and get the definition and use it. But if you have a quick definition for that, that'd be great.
So I'm not seeing the chat. I
Oh,
don't know what the deal is.
I sent it straight to you, a direct
I saw
message.
it pop up, but now anyway, so we're not going to take our Zoom time to figure out.
No
Tara's
problem.
name.
No,
I
that's
will,
why I did it there. Yeah.
I'll give a quick explanation of the endocannabinoid system. And I might not spell it right, but it starts ENDOCA. The endocannabinoid system is what helps our body to stay balanced. It is constantly working for balance. And you're more familiar with it than you realize, because the endocannabinoid system has CB1 and CB2 receptors. CBD lands on the CB2 receptors, okay?
Right.
That's why CBD has become so popular, because it mimics what THC is like super powerful to do. Well, anandamides, which is a molecule and a neurotransmitter, lands on our CB1 receptors. And forever, scientists didn't understand why we had those. Why would we have these receptors that responded so, you could say beautifully, to THC? It's because we have something called anandamides. And when we are in flow state, we're in gamma brainwave, and our anandamides are flowing. And they have the ability to stay in our body longer than THC, fortunately. So that's a big, anandamide is called the bliss molecule. And our bodies are made to be not in this super hyped up, super happy, just got off a roller coaster, happy state. Our bodies are made to be in this peaceful flow and joy, not every minute, but that's the purpose of anandamides, which are respond to our endocannabinoid system. So I hope that was helpful. Little science lesson from Tara.
That was very helpful, definitely. And that word was just used recently.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think that's important to note too, Tara, about what you said, that our bodies are meant to be in that more joy flow state, which is a more even state. Because from somebody who was seeking highs, and Wilson talked a lot about that, like seeking the high, you're always chasing. It's like, what is the next thing? What is the next thing? Which exhausts our system. Our brain can't keep up, and it's not a sustainable state. But what does help to keep us there is routine. As unglamorous as it is, and and dull at times, it's like, let's get up for me, I decided this year I was going to get up in the morning, I was going to read my devotional, and I was going to write, and that was my routine, period. And how many mornings already, what are we on? Not out of January yet, that I want to sleep later, I don't really want to get up, and yet to choose to do that does something for our self-confidence. It does something in the back of our minds that tells us, actually, I've made a choice, I've made a commitment, and I did that. And it's empowering.
It's serotonin, yeah, just coursing through us when we're in this achievement mode. I do think it would be helpful, though, to really make the clear connection between how we can make the statement that when we elevate joy, our achievement also is elevated. So I want to kind of clarify what I've seen to be true and what I believe and what science would support. And it's that when we are more in a joy state more often, we are more focused because we have less of a need for those hits of pleasure, which are all distracting. And in today's world, we have so much more access than ever before to quick hits of pleasure, mostly from the cell phone or a screen, but from quick food, fast food, everything's instant and immediate. We don't have to slow down, and we think we're fine, but all those hits of pleasure are breaking our flow state, which speaks specifically to our achievement. And what's cool is we have a lot of entrepreneurs on here. Entrepreneurs do what they do because of passion. They are passionate about their work. They have that risk taker mentality. And we need, more than the average person, we need to find ourselves in that state of flow and achievement. We can better do that by minimizing the distractions. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, it really is. And I think it's also about managing the chatter that goes on in our minds, because you mentioned imposter syndrome and the thoughts that we have. And so I think you're right. I think to minimize the distractions and to intentionally stay focused on, I think that's that quiet time. Who am I? What have I done today? Because when you said that, I thought, gosh, as an entrepreneur, there's a lot of days where it's like, oh, I didn't do that great thing. I didn't do that but it was just an even day. And it's using our internal talk to say, yeah, that was great. That was, and to continue to focus on what we've done that has taken us in the direction that we want to go.
Absolutely. These are such great reminders, which I feel like most of us really know. I'll tell y'all a quick funny instance, and then we're running out of time, but if anybody has a question or a comment, we would be all about it. I have 3 adult children, and my youngest lives in Seattle. She has a really exciting career, and she's busy and social and kind of typical 28-year-old. And I talked to her last night, and she's like, Mom, she said, this is embarrassing, but I cannot believe the difference this has made in my life. I'm like, well, do tell. She bought some kind of a lock for her phone. And at that age, especially if you're single, your phone is your lifeline. It's some little box. I don't know who makes it. I'm sure probably Amazon. That's who she works for. But she said you put the phone in the box and you put a timer on it. And she said, you can't get into it without breaking it. And she said,
I've heard about that. Oh my gosh.
Life-changing. She said, I cannot believe how much I've gotten done. So I got to tell this to Dr. G.
There you go. Oh my gosh. I've heard about using those at dinner time with families, and everybody has to drop it in the box, at dinner time so that the phones really don't come to the kid. Yeah, that's great. I see a hand up, Cece.
Good morning. Thank you so much for the word. And I heard something about chatter. And I thank you for that, because sometimes chatter shows up in my mind and I'm practicing how to shut it off and not listen to it. So this has been enlightening, especially about that new word you just said, that one. And I'm going to research that. And thank you so much for bringing some new information. And I pass.
Thank you, Cece. What came up for me when you said that is, trying to ignore the chatter and make it go away. So it's there, right? It's part of us. It will be there. Sometimes what I find is helpful is to just acknowledge it and go, oh, look, there you are again. I don't fight with you today. You're there, and just watch it pass on through. Don't get attached to it. Don't bring it in. Just, wow, there you are again. Look at you go. It's fun for me sometimes to give it a personality. So thanks for bringing that up.
The speech that I was helping this person write, one of the things that she talked about, which is kind of oddly coincidental, is you've continued to talk about just accepting these moments and living in your comfort zone. And one of the points of her talk was to live in fear. Like, there's so much mentality around beat your fear. Well, sometimes we're just fearful. Yeah. And that's okay. We can just be fearful and uncomfortable. We don't have to try to extinguish it. We can just live in it and let it be our fuel. Right. So kind of cool to share that today. I think we're right up on time. Cece, you don't have another question, do you? You just still have your hand up. And somebody put some information about the endocannabinoid system in the chat. I think that was Gio. So thank you all so much. Yeah, but I'm going to close us out today. And thank you all for sharing and listening and being part of this amazing, amazing community. Today's Wednesday on the Daily Huddle, and we thank you for being here as we talk about communication and relationships. And I'll close us out with our 7 tenets. And the first of those is love. Love with all your heart. It definitely will elevate your anandamide. And so will giving. Give of your time, of your heart, of your vulnerable spirit. It also will elevate your oxytocin and your serotonin. So remember to also sleep, which takes care of your body. Eat those plants, makes a great foundation for serotonin and dopamine through tryptophan and tyrosine. Eat those plants. Laugh out loud. Endorphins. Those give you those endorphins. Throw that head back and let yourself laugh out loud. And make sure to move that body. Move what your mama gave you. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time on the Daily Huddle.
Bye, ladies. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day now.
Love you all. Have a safe trip.